Hi, I'm Jill from Kittywinkles, and today we are tackling a very misconstrued parenting style. We're talking to Shannon, our behaviour specialist, and we're talking about gentle parenting. So, Shannon, do you want to give a wee introduction to yourself and what your business is and what you're passionate about?
Okay, yeah. So my name is Shannon Hollywood, and my background, Jill, is in social work, and I've spent 14 years supporting children, young people and families. And really what I came to realise during my professional career was that there is a wealth of research and information available around the emotional and behavioural needs of children. But unfortunately, a lot of that research isn't actually mainstream. So it's not used in our education systems, in our healthcare, in our social care. So that was really my driving force and my passion of setting up my own organisation, which now really supports parents and professionals to better understand this research and how they can actually use that in their day-to-day work and parenting.
And so you're running workshops, and do you do one-to-one?
So I offer one-to-one support, workshops for parents, staff development workshops for anyone who works along with children. And then I also have a lot of online courses and school community, which really tries to create that village around parents for ongoing support.
See, this is why I knew you were perfect to come in and chat to me about this. Because gentle parenting, it does get a bad rep in the press. People kind of think it's, kids get to do whatever they want, and they conjure up this image of the mum in the supermarket speaking gently and softly while the child attacks them and stabs them in the leg with a fork. All the while they're going, "Mummy doesn't like that, darling." And it gets such a bad rap. But actually there's a lot of positive things in gentle parenting that we're going to unpick today, just to see if we can undo a little bit of that bad image that it's picked up. And I have a few questions that I thought would be a good way to start. And the first was, is really, why do you think it is such a controversial topic? Why do you think it has this bad rep?
So I think for gentle parenting, it's got a lot of negative attention, particularly in recent years, and it divides a lot of opinion within parenting circles, but simply because the term gentle parenting is really misunderstood. And I will read articles where it says, gentle parenting, destroying generations of children. Mother of 4 regrets her decision to gentle parent. You know, they grab your attention, you're like, oh my goodness, and you read the article. But what the article is actually describing is something that we refer to as permissive parenting and not actually gentle parenting. Yeah. So the understanding of the term is not being used correctly. And the article, I suppose, in the sense is right, because permissive parenting, if that is your consistent parenting approach, does cause long-term detrimental harm to parents and to children. But gentle parenting is something completely different entirely.
Yes, I know, I agree. And so one of the biggest misconceptions is that gentle parenting means no discipline. Yeah. And how would you explain that difference then between the gentle parenting and the permissive parenting? Because I kind of think for me, it's the word boundaries is important here, because I think with permissive boundaries or permissive parenting, there are no boundaries. And actually, my research tells me that children cannot regulate in that environment because they need something firm to press against, and it's the adult that has to decide when that boundary gets pushed back, not the child's behaviour. So what's the difference then in gentle parenting, if you want to be gentle, but you know the boundaries are important? So
I suppose when answering this question, Jill, it's really important to understand the different styles of parenting that we have. So there are 3 styles of discipline. The first is authoritarian, and that is that like old style approach, you'll do what I say, not what I do, lots of punishment, bribes, threats, very kind of, I just want the behaviour to stop and you will respect me because I'm the parent.
And you can fall into that when you're in desperation.
Absolutely, okay. Then there is the polar opposite of authoritarian parenting, which is permissive parenting. So that's where we have a lot of emotional warmth and understanding for our child, which is a good thing. But when our child has an emotional reaction to us saying no, often then our boundaries slip, or we give in, or we let the child lead it, which is actually really detrimental. Then we have what we refer to as authoritative parenting. And that's actually what gentle parenting is, authoritative parenting. And what authoritative parenting is a lovely balance between both. So we're going to take from the authoritarian parenting lots of clear boundaries. So no absolutely means no. And I think in my house, I say no so much. There are very clear boundaries within our house. It's also characterised by really realistic expectations of children and young people's behaviour. And it's really important to say that what we expect from children's emotional and behavioural development in society is phenomenal. It is the equivalent to expecting a newborn baby to get up and walk across the room. We would just never ever expect that. And what's more, we would never punish them for not being able to do that. So when we are authoritative parents or gentle parents, we have got really clear expectations around what my child is actually capable of. We understand that when we say no, children are going to have an emotional reaction to that. Who doesn't like not getting their own way? Yeah. I have big reactions to not getting my own way.
It's okay to sit in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when children have big reactions or feel angry or frustrated or jealous or disappointed, they can't communicate that with words. Oh, Mummy, I'm feeling really disappointed today. It will come out in hitting and kicking and biting and I hate you.
Yeah, it comes out in this is the worst day of my life.
Absolutely. My little girl told me the other day that I have absolutely ruined her entire life and she hates me so much. Now, not because she actually means that, but because she's having a really big feeling. Yeah. So what we're going to do in them instances is we're going to hold really clear boundaries. Holding boundaries doesn't mean giving into behaviour, and then we're going to teach our children how to manage them emotions in a very different way. And that's what discipline is.
Yeah, it's the teaching rather than the reaction.
Yes, rather than that punishment.
So then how can parents set clear limits without shouting or using threats or using punishment? How do you get out of that default if you're feeling exhausted and overwhelmed?
This one is a challenging one, Jill, because it takes a lot of practice. And the reason it takes a lot of practice is because most of us have experienced the authoritarian parenting. We have experienced the punishment, the lack of emotional warmth.
So that's our default because we experienced it, yeah.
Exactly. So we will parent how we've been parented because that is our norm. That's what feels right to us. That's what we know how to do. Unless you have a job like mine, or unless you're within a daycare setting, or you're kind of exposed to that more training and development. If you are working in another role and you are now becoming a parent, you will go back into your default, what you know in terms of how do we respond to behaviour. So it's really, really important for parents to take away that if they are using punishment or threats or bribes or anything like that, it's not because they're bad parents. Mm-hmm. It's simply because how do you know what you don't know?
No shame here. You don't need anything extra to carry. We carry enough as parents. Yes. But I think there's something to say, okay, if I don't want to use shouting and threats, and there's this other type of parenting, it's that you don't go too far the other way and have no boundaries. It's still to hold that boundary, but to see that as a positive, and that you're going to both work together. So if your best friend said, oh, I really want to stop smoking, well, you would try your best to not bring them places where there's going to be smoke, or you wouldn't talk about smoking, or you wouldn't watch a TV program with smoking on it, because you'd want to respect that boundary.
Absolutely. And
you find a way of helping her get there. So it's almost the same if you identify the behaviour or the boundary that you need to put in place with the child, but then you think of, okay, how do we both work together to get to that point, rather than this is something I have to immediately try and stop.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. You're in them moments, you're not asking, how can I stop this behaviour, but how can I support my child in this moment? Yeah. And one of the examples that I always use within my workshops is if you have a very young child and maybe you have a boundary at home that we're not allowed to jump on the sofa. So child is so excited, they're jumping on the sofa, they're having so much crack, and we say, you need to get down off the sofa. Child doesn't get down off the sofa. We're not then going to go in with the punishment. If you don't get down off the sofa, you're not going to get any sweets today. It's if you're not able to get down off the sofa, I will help you down off the sofa. So very calmly, I'm going to lift you down off the sofa, and I can identify, I can see that you really want to jump today and we really want to bounce. Could we do that in the trampoline? Could we get outside for some fresh air? Is there something happening that we can change the channel, so to speak, that we can, use our bodies in different ways?
Because quite often the behaviour is a tool that they're using to communicate some kind of a need.
Absolutely.
And if you can translate that a little,
Yeah.
it helps avoid those endpoints too. And I wanted to ask you in closing then, if there's a parent listening today that feels like they're getting it wrong, what reassurance would you want to give them?
I think even the fact that parents are listening to this podcast today is a huge indication that they're not getting it wrong, because children really do not need perfect parents. And actually, if we're striving for perfection, we're doing a huge disservice, not only to ourselves, but also to our children. But what children do need is open-mindedness, the ability to just say, you know what, maybe that's not really working for us, and do you think we could try something new? You know, the ability to own our own behaviour and recognise that as the adult, it's always going to be up to us to make the change. So even just listening to this and thinking and considering a different way is showing that you're not getting it wrong. And just recognising that, you know, as parents, we are all doing the very best with the skills, with the knowledge, with the abilities that we have at any given time.
Oh, that makes me feel quite emotional even hearing you talk about that, because this is not something else, another tool for parents to beat themselves up on. And I say parents, but essentially mums are the ones who'll question, you know, their parenting styles and could we do this differently? And dads more or less follow the mum's lead on the parental style, and they be committed to it, but it's usually the mums that'll drive that change because it doesn't feel right for them, or it feels off, or it feels that they're not connected to their children, or it feels very lonely if you're the only one disciplining.
Definitely.
And so I would really say, look, if your children are fed and housed and light, and what I mean by light is I always look for children who are up on their toes, or movement, or singing, or then they're happy, okay? And all the rest is the icing on the cake. And there's research out there, there's people like yourself out there that can support that. There's agencies like daycare nursery, quality childcare can become part of your parenting village to help support the choices you're making. And sometimes when the children are with other children, it can let them see that this is actually normal. I don't know why I'm fighting this so much. This is, you're not supposed to hit people or jump on sofas. So you can use that as a support network. So that's been fab, Shannon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jill. Thanks so much for having me.